Welcome to the Sage Advice Podcast, transforming the way people think and work so their organizations can thrive. Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to our podcast. I'm Ed Kless, and with me today is Peter Dilger. Peter is an internationally recognized business development practitioner with a proven 25-plus year track record of improving company and organizational performance. He works globally, providing strategic and practical insights to senior leadership teams in major organizations, government bodies, and startup companies. Currently leading the board at Draycir, driving the business to become a globally recognized leader in document management and accounts receivable and payable solutions. In the UK, he is recognized by government as an improved business champion for his work helping grow businesses in the small and medium sector. Welcome to the Sage Advice Podcast, Peter Dilger.
Thank you very much indeed.
Well, first off, Peter, why do you do what you do?
Basically, I enjoy it. I know that's a silly answer, but it is. I'm way past retirement age officially, but I can't see myself giving it up. Very quickly, I started in the corporate world. I was a troubleshooting director. I turned companies round, and then one day just thought, why am I doing it for other people? Why don't I do it for myself? And became a consultant. And I hate routine. I don't like going in and know what I'm going to do today and know what I'm going to do next Tuesday. So it appealed to me, and every business I deal with is a fresh challenge, and I find that appealing, to be honest.
And you suggested before we started talking that you really think it's important for businesses to harness innovation. Why do you think that's so?
Because nothing stands still today, and obviously COVID and going through COVID, it's a prime example of how people have had to harness innovative ways of doing things, technology or whatever, to succeed or in fact to grow. And the clever companies are not just actually shrinking, they're growing. But I think that people do it, this is arrogant of me in some respects, but I believe that people do it badly. I think they think that innovation means improved technology, and it's not necessarily true. If you have a bad process and you automate a bad process, then you've just got a faster bad process, if that makes sense. So we at Draycir have taken a view that, first of all, let's look at the process and ask the question every consultant asks, which is why, and why are you doing it that way, and why do you need to do it that way? And then when we've refined and put some innovation into the process, we then look at adding the technology, and then we complete the loop by saying, well, now we've got people who are more empowered to do stuff, and they've probably got more time on their hands. How can we then use the people skill to add that final bit in the puzzle and bring some personal creativity into it, and not follow up? We don't say this is the path you have to go. We allow the companies to be innovative in the way they use their people and use the resource we give them. And we've had some startling results for that, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it was Peter Drucker who said there's nothing so wasteful as doing that which is ineffective efficiently.
Yeah. I mean, for example, if you take accounts receivable and collections, the traditional route is, one, we know that people involved in it spend about 80-85% of their time on admin, which is a total waste. We know that, they start at the beginning of the month with this really high-tech solution, which is a highlighter and an 18-inch ruler, and they mark off on a computer printout who they've contacted. And the traditional thinking is 30, 60, 120 days after someone owes you money, you start the process. We turned that thinking on its head at Draycir and said, well, hang on a second, why don't we actually automatically send out a reminder, say 5 or 6 or 7 days before the invoice is due, just saying, oh, by the way, remember you're due to pay us. And a remarkable number of people in our systems will actually pay as the invoice is due, which for traditional thinking, they just look at you aghast and say, well, you can't do that. Well, you can, and we do it.
And hence, even as we were talking before we started recording about the move to subscription model, which is even that on steroids, right? Which says let's get paid even before we do stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've had people who have halved or better their days beyond terms, for example. We've had people where, it's terrible when people are getting unemployed, I suppose, but we've got people now who are running departments with 1 or 2 people where they had 6. Because we can just do things differently. And if you do it differently and well, then you reap the benefits.
Yes, and ultimately, it's about those innovations will create new jobs as well, because as what you're talking about filters out to other places in the economy, there'll be a need for people to do that in companies that really hadn't even thought about doing collections.
Yeah, I mean, we've got people. We've got a lot of our customers where people have just been reallocated into parts of the business where they are far more productive than chasing debt. And that in itself is productive.
Yeah, certainly, because they are now able to do stuff that might even create additional value versus just collect stuff that's already been done.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about the receivable side. What about the payable side?
On the payable side, we've done a number of things actually. I mean, and again, a very simple. Take for example a statement that goes out and says you owe, I know it's receivable again, but you owe me money. We've added a pay now button, what's called a pay now button, automatically onto invoices, onto statements, onto letters, and if people click that, they're able immediately to pay off whatever they owe, and that in itself has reduced results. On the payable side of things, we can automate the way invoices go out. We can do batch emailing so that one person presses one button and 500 invoices go out. They go correctly addressed. They go out with correct stationery if you've got multiple departments. You can add special offers automatically into it, or into the body, or into the signature block. You can add barcoding to it, so it's easy to trace, or QR codes. You can add terms and conditions. So basically, again, we've taken this thinking of saying, admin takes too much of people's time. Admin should be supporting the job that they actually do, not being the reason for the job, so to speak. And that kind of innovative thinking is won us 2 innovation awards actually in the UK for what we call our intelligent document distribution system.
And we have an exit question, Peter, that we ask all of our guests on the Sage Advice podcast, and that is, who is a hero of yours, and why are they a hero?
Well, I was going to say it's a tough question. Actually, this might sound very trite, but it's actually true. It's my father, and the reason it's my father is I was brought up on what in America I believe is called public housing. In the UK, we call it a council estate, very poor. My father had 4 children. He sent all of us through college and university, except me. I actually got commissioned. I was an officer in the Royal Air Force. And the reason he's a hero is his whole view of life is that don't use the system and don't use other people as an excuse for not doing something, or blaming them for why you can't do something. So he set his sight. We were the only people out of maybe 500 houses where the children went to university. I was certainly the only guy ever to become an officer in Royal Air Force. And that's all down to my father saying, nothing's impossible. Don't just believe this, you can't do that, there's a glass ceiling. He was a strict, he was a very devout Catholic. While he's been ridiculed by people around him for having religious beliefs or being well-mannered or teaching his children to speak correctly, he just persevered. And that perseverance and his insight is what turned me eventually into an international consultant, going out and taking that attitude into companies of saying, why are you blaming the system? Why are you blaming the economy? Why are you blaming other people? Look for what you're capable of doing and go for it. And that certainly reflected the whole of my life. So I guess it's my dad.
And lastly, Peter, how can somebody contact you?
They can get hold of us at Draycir, which is peter.dilger@Draycir, DRAYCIR.com. And that always gets hold of me. We're on the website. Just look for us on the website. You'll find us. And give us a call. It's easy.
All right. Peter Dilger, Managing Director at Draycir, thanks so much for being a guest on the Sage Advice Podcast.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
For more Sage Advice, visit and subscribe at sageadvicepodcast.com.